Folks in Jacksonville continue to demand answers regarding a black man, Lakeem Woods, severely beaten by police when he was arrested. This is what Woods looked like when he was booked into jail after the traffic stop. Now, Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters, an African-American, says this video shared on social media misrepresented the facts surrounding the arrest of a suspect that went viral over the weekend. He also says it was altered. Waters says the body cam video shows exactly what happened and the use of force was justified in the arrest of Lakeem Woods. Now, according to his attorneys, Lakeem has a ruptured kidney and is suffering from migraine headaches due to this incident. Joining us now, one of the attorneys, Harry Daniels. Harry, glad to have you on the show. What do you make of the sheriff saying that this was all the actions of these cops were justified in arresting your client?
Roland, how you doing? First of all, that's preposterous. And he's talking about the video being altered. Initial video that somebody placed and put out on social media. That I guess they cut the video and made it appears that one of the deputies kicked Lakeem in the face. That didn't happen. We released a full video of the bystanders that show the assault on Lakeem, to include him being slammed in the ground once he was handcuffed. Let me tell you this: Lakeem was tased. His face planted on the asphalt, and after that, he was struck almost 17 times in his body and multiple knee strikes and punches in his head. Lakeem suffered a severe concussion, which is a brain injury, multiple face lacerations and swelling to his face, as well as being told he suffered a ruptured kidney. This all stemmed from, according to their own police report, because the front seat, the driver of the Ram truck that Lakeem ran from didn't have a seatbelt, wearing a seatbelt properly, improper use of the seatbelt. So they stopped these individuals at gunpoint to try to say they was doing a felony stop, but they had no probable cause to do a felony stop. The basis of the stop was based on somebody having a seatbelt behind their back opposed to being in front of their chest. So Lakeem, as the passenger, they came out with guns drawn on him and giving commands with weapons. He takes off running. Then the next is history of what happened to him. The video is crystal clear. It shows that Lakeem was struck multiple times. The body cam, as well as the cell phone footage from the bystander, shows Lakeem was struck multiple times. And even in the report, they do not deny that he was struck in the head, knee strikes in the head, which Roland, that is deadly force. Experts have opined across the nation that's deadly force.
So now I'm trying to understand. So you're saying that he was stopped because of a seatbelt, and now I'm really confused here. And they came out with guns drawn?
That's exactly what happened. The video shows, and based on their report, the basis of the stop was for improper wear of the seatbelt of the driver. Lakeem was a passenger. So the Supreme Court has made it very clear, if a person can walk away without reasonable suspicion of committing a crime, they can run away. Lakeem chose to run away. They didn't like the fact that he ran. He was not not under suspicion of committing any crime whatsoever. Now, they do talk about early on of them watching them at a gas station, that Lakeem was counting money, but there was no indication they saw any transactions of drugs, money, or guns. So the basis of the stop was based on, well, we see this guy not wearing a seatbelt. Let's stop him and let's see what they got. And Lakeem takes off running, and he suffered a beating beyond words. He's in bad shape. He's currently in jail. His face is swollen, eyes swollen shut. I mean, you see the picture there. It's horrific. Can't even see out of his eyes. He was admitted into the hospital due to his brain injury. Let's be very clear. He was admitted into the hospital. He was released from the hospital, and he was told that he had I guess, some type of ruptured kidney as well. So for the Sheriff Waters, who I've dealt with these same officers before. Actually, it's one of the officers, Jose Garriga, is the same officer who shot and killed a FAMU student back in 2019. Is the same officer involved that beat Lakeem, who's actually struck him in the head multiple times with his knee. But Roland, the reason why Jamie Johnson was stopped, the same reason. He didn't have a seatbelt on.
Wow.
So this is this guy's MO to get to people to eventually. In Jamie Johnson case, he shot and killed Jamie Johnson. In this case, they beat LaKen mercilessly.
So when you hear the sheriff say he should have complied like the other young man did, what do you say?
Well, I tell people this all the time. They say, well, you should comply, you should comply. Just because police give you an order, and you can make the determination, you can make the decision whether you're going to follow the order. Order has to be lawful, okay? Just because they stop some person doesn't mean you have to stop, especially if you're not suspected of committing any crime or reach suspicion or probable cause of committing any crime. Like I told you before, he can walk away, he can run away. He exercises his right to walk away or run away from the scene. That they're not constitutionally right or duty bound to go after him because he's not suspected of committing a crime. So therefore, this is not just. Let me be very clear, Roller. This is not just excessive force on LaKen Woods. This is unlawful force because they had no right to stop and seize him in the first place. As you can see this video, this is for a seatbelt violation. These black men are held at gunpoint, and all they got right now is a seatbelt violation. Nothing more, nothing less. And LaKen, the seatbelt violation was based on the driver, not the passenger. But the passenger is bound. The passenger is not bound to stay there because you stopped the car. He's not one being cited for operating a vehicle in the state of Florida, violating the law as an improper wear of the seatbelt. But nevertheless, when he takes off running, they go after him, and you see what happened to him next.
All right, Harry Daniels, certainly keep us abreast of what happens next in this case. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, Roland. Take care.
Folks, my panel, Robert Patillo, he is the host of People, Passion, Politics, News Talk, 1380 WAOK out of Atlanta. Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Election Center out of D.C. A. Scott Bolden, attorney based in D.C. As well. Glad to have all three of you here. See, here's the thing that consistently happens over and over and over again. I swear, Scott, every time we do one of these stories, we start off with, it was a basic traffic stop.
Right. Why are the police even stopping people for traffic stops with their guns drawn? If you pull that video, the criminal defense lawyer, civil rights lawyer that you just had on is absolutely right. One, he was not accused of a crime. He was the passenger. He even had his seatbelt on properly. That's the first thing. He gets out and runs and walks away. Why are you chasing him? Why are you have your guns on him? He has not committed a crime. He's not He's not under any suspicion whatsoever. But he runs and you chase him. Then you tase him. Once you tase him, you have him under control. No need to use deadly force or physical force. He is tased. He is down. They then use deadly force on him, beat him up, not because he committed a crime, but because he made them run, right? And here's the training piece. Most police officers, I'm sorry to paint it with a broad brush, don't understand these laws and rules and the constitutional rights. If the passenger gets out and walks and runs away, the Supreme Court has said, unless he's under reasonable suspicion for committing a crime, or you see a crime being committed, or there's a threat to the officer, you cannot do that. You cannot chase him and hold him because that passenger hasn't committed a crime. I'll tell you, Roland, real quick, this happened to me about 10 years ago. I was a passenger in a car. I got out of the car. They were giving the driver a ticket. I got out to get in my own car that was right next door, and the police stopped me and wouldn't let me leave. I said, you're giving him a traffic ticket. My driver, my car is right here. Why can't I leave? I'm not threatening you, and I haven't committed a crime. Do you know they put me in handcuffs? This is in D.C. They put me in handcuffs and threatened to arrest me for disorderly conduct until I told them to call their supervising officer, the sergeant, to authorize the arrest. Most people don't know, if you're being arrested, you can ask for the supervising sergeant who's on call that night to come and authorize the arrest. The supervising sergeant came. I happen to know him through the D.C. Chamber of Commerce. We give them awards every year. And he deauthorized the arrest. They took me out of handcuffs and they let me go. But the officer, the sergeant, told me, he said he could have detained you for disobeying a police order. I said, what order? Just because he told me to stop? That wasn't a lawful order. And so the sergeant told me to write a letter to the chief and I could take it up administratively, but I was free to go. Now, if I don't want to go home, I can go to jail and get out on Monday morning. Of course, I chose to go home. But this happens a lot to many people, except white Americans. White America doesn't get treated like that.
That's right. And Robert, again, okay, the guy is riding around. He doesn't have, he's got the seatbelt behind him. I'm trying to understand, how does that elevate to guns drawn?
Well, look, and it's great to see Harry working on that case, somebody I've known and worked with for years. And this is why we have been pushing for comprehensive criminal justice and police reform for all of these decades. Black men have not been making these stories up. This is the reality for many of us in this country. And when you look at the situation that that took place, this is the reason that we have so many municipalities nationwide that are instructing officers to not chase people, to limit the number of traffic stops. They're not prosecuting minor violations because of the nature of their escalation. This is beyond training, to Scott's point. These officers know exactly what the law is and what they're allowed to do and what they aren't allowed to do. It's about recruiting the wrong people onto forces. This is about not having about not piercing qualified immunity, where people take a personal responsibility for their actions while under the color of law. And until we are able to push these things through, these things will continue happening piecemeal. And the police departments are willing to make the gamble that they can get away with this enough times until one of these suits comes through that starts to bankrupt the jurisdiction, that it's still worth it to continue employing these officers to enlist these types of tactics. And until we make real statutory change, legislative change on the national level, federal level, we're not going to find an end to this. So that's why it's important to keep pushing the White House, to keep pushing Congress to get this done.
And Rebecca, here's the deal. There are a lot of people who, you got these right-wingers who say, oh, these soft on crime, George Soros DAs. But this is why you have an increasing number of police chiefs who are saying, enough with the basic traffic stops.
Really?
No more. And this is why. I mean, if you're trying to stop violent crime and all you're seeing are somebody and they ain't got a seatbelt on, actually, how hard is it to pull them over and say, sir, you know the law states that you're supposed to be wearing your seatbelt? But the moment you come guns drawn, I don't care who you are, whether you are, you know, a $2,000 an hour attorney like Scott, or whether you are this young brother here, you're gonna naturally, you can't, what the hell's going on? And it's fight or flight. That's what happens.
You know, I have a couple of responses to this. The first thing is, Tim Scott, where are you at? Each time something like this happens where someone is getting brutally beaten or even sexually assaulted or, God forbid, killed in police custody, I want to hear from Tim Scott. I want to hear how he continues to justify what he did with the George Floyd bill negotiations. The second thing is Chuck Schumer. At the beginning of the next Congress, if you are still the Senate Majority Leader, when you're carving out the rules package, which determines the number of votes needed to end debate, i.e. cloture, in order to pass legislation, I need you to carve out two exceptions. One, carve out exceptions when it deals with the George Floyd policing bill, and two, carve out exceptions when it deals with the voting rights, with the John Lewis voting rights bill. Those are two things that the Senate Majority Leader can do, and those are two things that we ought to demand that Chuck Schumer does if he is elected as the next Senate Majority Leader in the next Congress.
Oh, indeed, indeed. All right, folks.